Tonight, as Israeli forces continue to push deeper into southern Gaza, pro-Palestinian demonstrators fill the streets in downtown Toronto. Hundreds rally on this International Day of Human Rights.
I am concerned about it because hospitals could get overwhelmed.
With the festive season in full swing, a reminder from health officials to get vaccinated as COVID and influenza cases are expected to peak soon.
It's getting worse, and our services are needed more than ever, unfortunately.
What started as an emergency meal program run by a Toronto church has now become a community mainstay as the number of those going hungry skyrockets.
This is CBC Late Night News.
We start with some breaking news tonight. You're looking at Scarborough, where Toronto police have just given a press conference with some disturbing details that have left a woman and 2 children in hospital in critical condition this hour. Here is some of what police had to say just a few moments ago.
The reason we're here this evening is an incident that was brought to the attention of the Toronto Police this evening at 7:30 p.m. Information was received from a number of callers within this building and the surrounding area that a woman had apparently fallen from a balcony in the building behind me at 5 Glen Morgan. The residents of the building tended to her needs, and apparently she had fallen from a balcony from that same building. Officers arrived on scene and went upstairs where they located 2 children who were toddlers, infants that were suffering from no injuries but were VSA. So they're unconscious, they didn't have a pulse, they were not breathing. The woman was located on the ground, and the 2 children were transported by an emergency run to nearby trauma centers.
A couple of other points he had to say. It's an extensive investigation with a number of officers on scene right now. He said it'll take some time to determine exactly what happened. He also added medical staff are working very hard tonight. He clarified the children's ages, saying they are under 8 years old. Now, the woman is believed to be related to the children, but police cannot confirm that at this time. A Toronto police officer on scene also told CBC Toronto police are not looking for any suspects at this time. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you more details as we learn them. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian demonstrators gathered today on this International Day of Human Rights. Now, during the rally, violence broke out, which was caught on video. CBC Toronto has not confirmed what initially led to the incident, a warning some may find this video disturbing.
You're punching him!
The video posted by the Palestine Youth Movement Group shows an officer punching a person on the ground. In a statement on Instagram, the group says an attendee of the rally was, quote, brutalized and arrested. In a press release tonight, Toronto police say an officer was allegedly pushed off their bike during the demonstration near University and Armory Street. One man is now facing charges. Toronto police did not answer questions from CBC Toronto on the officer's use of force. Meantime, Israeli forces continue to push deeper into southern Gaza, the military telling Palestinians in the city of Khan Yunis to evacuate. As Margaret Evans shows us, the health and humanitarian systems in the region continue to crumble.
No end in sight to Gaza's pain, burying itself ever deeper into the hearts of those who suffer it. This is how the grieving now say their farewells in Khan Yunis, at a hospital where the morgue is overwhelmed, clutching the shoes of someone now dead and wrapped in a shroud, or at the arm of someone who's also hurting. Israeli ground forces have been moving closer to the center of Khan Yunis, telling Palestinians living nearby to move for their own safety, prompting yet another exodus of uncertainty. We fled because of the bombing, says Mohammed Sayyam. We're heading to Rafah, hoping it will be safe, but I doubt it. We're not affiliated with Hamas, Fatah, or Islamic Jihad, says this father, also heading for Rafah with a blind daughter. In Rafah, sanctuary is but an idea for those charged with civil defense, the ambulance and emergency workers called out after airstrikes. The hardest part is when you see a kid under the rubble or a child in pieces, says Haitham Al-Hems. You see women and children without weapons, he says. No fault in the conflict except that they exist on this land. The UN Secretary General has renewed his call for an immediate ceasefire, despite Washington's veto of a resolution to that effect at the UN Security Council on Friday. But Israel's Prime Minister says a ceasefire isn't compatible with Israel's goal of destroying Hamas, and he thanked the United States for sending ammunition. Ammunition important to the continuation of the war, he says. The World Health Organization says the war's impact on Gaza has been catastrophic, while the UN's World Food Programme has warned that half of Gaza's population is now starving. And there are increasingly desperate scenes in Rafah when aid trucks are allowed to cross over from Egypt. Scenes like these. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Back in our province, OPP are investigating after a pedestrian was struck and killed on the 401. Here's what the scene looked like on the eastbound lanes near Warden and Kennedy. Officers posted on social media that a pedestrian had been driving and was involved in a single vehicle collision around 2 a.m., then was fatally struck by a transport truck when they left their vehicle. Police are asking anyone with dashcam footage or who may have witnessed the crash to call Toronto OPP. Taking you now to Markham, where another pedestrian was also hit this afternoon. It happened just before 4 p.m. at McCowan and Burr Oak Avenue. York police say the victim, a woman, was taken to hospital in serious, life-threatening condition. A warning from health officials tonight that COVID and influenza cases are expected to peak just in time for the holidays. As Sarah McMillan shows us, COVID fatigue may make it more challenging to encourage people to take precautions.
This holiday season may be feeling back to normal for many. No COVID restrictions, big gatherings are once again the norm. For some, COVID feels like a distant memory.
I think that now the COVID is now present, so I don't think about it.
Me, I'm fully vaccinated, so I'm not really scared of COVID at all. And I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm done with thinking about COVID and stuff.
And vaccination data seems to mirror that. The most recent national data shows that across the country, less than 15% of people have received a dose of the latest COVID shot. That's the XBB 1.5 vaccine, which targets a newer strain of the virus. In Ontario, the rate is even lower at just 11.5% as of last week.
We should be encouraging people to get the new version of the COVID vaccine and tell people COVID, even though World Health declared it over as a pandemic, it's not over as something that impacts us and our healthcare system.
Along with low vaccine uptake, we're seeing high levels of the virus locally. Across the province, the levels of COVID in wastewater are about double what they were this time last year. Dr. Anna Banerjee says it's not surprising many people aren't paying close attention.
It's a combination of things. I think part of it is messaging, but part of it is people are really tired and they say, well, I've had COVID. I've had all these other vaccines. Why do I need to get another vaccine?
But experts say respiratory viruses, including COVID, influenza, and RSV, are adding strain to an already overburdened healthcare system. And steps like getting up-to-date vaccines and masking in public spaces can help. Advice some people are following.
I'm traveling for work more these days, so I'm wearing a mask on the airplane and thinking about staying safe. We're coming up to Christmas. Nobody wants to be ill over that and have to quarantine again.
Here in Ontario, the latest COVID shot is available to those aged 6 months and older. The recommended interval is 6 months since your last shot or last COVID infection. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
The town of Kingsville in southwestern Ontario could be getting grinchy about Christmas lights next year. One homeowner feels like his family's 65,000 bulb display is being unfairly targeted.
There are about 2 or 3 neighbors that are complaining. We know who those neighbors are. They've voiced their opinions in the past. They simply want to appease the couple neighbors that are having issues instead of listening to the community as a whole. This event brings a lot to the town of Kingsville, and everyone loves it.
Tomorrow, Town Council will debate whether permits should be required for, quote, extreme holiday light shows. A staff report outlines how some neighbors feel the lights unacceptably infringes on their otherwise quiet street. The Williams Light Show has been running since 2017, he says, raising nearly $40,000 for cancer research. We've got Sophia tracking the weather forecast for us tonight. We've really seen a little of everything right across the province, from rain to snow, and others are getting really warm temperatures.
Yes, Shannon, another gloomy but balmy weekend in parts of southern Ontario. You can't get enough of the double-digit warmth in December, that is, unless you're hoping for an early snowmobile or ski season. Look what we got to yesterday. 13 in Toronto, 15 in Windsor and in Niagara Falls. But the cold is in place, perfectly timed for Monday as the lake effect snow machine starts back up for your Monday commutes, both morning and afternoon, where 3 bands will set up off the Georgian and the Huron shores throughout Monday into Tuesday. The snowbelts are looking at receiving anywhere from 5 to 15 centimeters of snowfall in the usual suspect regions, including Collingwood and even into the London region, where this really hefty band could set up and make it all the way down to the Erie shorelines. But look, do you see a lack of snow somewhere? This snow shield we have up around the GTA is still in place, as it has been. Not a snowless December. We've had about 5 or 6 centimeters of snowfall so far chalked up at Pearson, but really not as much as we normally get. Now, coming up in the long range, I'll talk a little bit more about the 3 to 5 centimeters coming up for those of you in the nation's capital region for Tuesday, and when the cold weather will finally relent.
Hanukkah celebrations are well underway, and members of the Jewish community gathered outside the CN Tower for a flash dance performance of a traditional Israeli folk dance. Organizers say they hope the surprise events lift spirits during troubling times.
Hora is a traditional dance for the Israeli people, and right now we're celebrating Hanukkah in the middle of the Hanukkah, so we thought it would be nice to get together the community in the middle of everything that is happening to lift some spirits and remember also what is happening, still going on in Israel right now.
Hanukkah celebrations continue through December 15th. A church meal program in Toronto was supposed to be a temporary measure. Hot meals served up twice a week to those going hungry. But as Patrick Swadden shows us, now, 3 years later, the program is marking a bittersweet milestone.
A lineup of people wrapping around St. Luke's for the church's Out of the Cold meal program has become all too familiar since the pandemic began.
I mean, it's hard to scrape by with very little income, and I tell you, what these people do for us, they're lifesavers.
But today is different. One person will be eating the 80,000th meal the program has provided over its 3 years, one of the largest faith-based volunteer food efforts in Toronto's history.
It's a milestone. It's unfortunate that people actually have to come here to get a hot meal, but we felt we'd have to recognize it.
Reverend Jim Keenan started the program with Rafi Aaron in December 2020.
The situation is so dire for so many of the people that we are serving.
Both founders say few services were available when COVID began, and the program was meant to serve 350 people a week for 3 six-month periods.
We wanted to alleviate suffering and prevent death. That's really why we started and why we continue this program. But unfortunately, that emergency has become the norm.
Meaning the program has also become the norm and now feeds 650 people a week as it heads into its 37th straight month.
I go out down gardens, hand out meals, hand out harm reduction supplies.
Wayne Porter forms part of the outreach team, delivering meals to 3 overdose prevention sites and various encampments in Toronto, where Organizers saying it's important to meet people where they are.
We really need to take a deeper look, I think, at why they're out there. Like how are we failing them before they get into the lineup?
Susan Vance's church is one of many organizations that have donated to the effort, but the program's coordinators say they still need many more volunteers and funding, as it was never meant to run year-round.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse, and our services are needed more than ever.
But, Keenan says, as long as people keep lining up, the meals won't stop.
If social assistance programs don't increase to something that approximate what people need to survive, this will increase.
Meaning even as the church helps the community, it will need help from the community itself. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
Musicians from across Durham region gathering in Oshawa today to raise money to help feed those in need. The 6th annual concert is organized by Rotary clubs across the region, all in support of Feed the Need Durham. Now, they help provide emergency food services to local organizations and programs.
So we collect, rescue, and sometimes purchase food, and we distribute it to 65 different food relief organizations across the region. And we usually distribute about 2 million pounds of food a year.
In its latest hunger report, the agency says food bank use is up 53% in the past year, with 1 in 4 being first-time clients. Empowering women and helping put food on the table for those in need. That's the recipe for success for an Ontario-based organization. As you're about to see, they're selling special aprons inspired by well-known chefs.
Yeah, they're like, we've seen you on the news, or we've seen you, you're the apron lady. I'm like, okay. And I kept seeing all these brands that were putting out products that were becoming more and more expensive, not really resonating with the values that are important to the foodie community, sustainability, focusing on food waste, giving back, fair trade. So I thought there's room here for a brand that is for the conscious cook.
When I first chatted with Seema and she explained to me 1 apron, 100 meals, it really struck a chord with me. My mom always said we have to help people, and I think when you empower women, things happen.
So all of our textiles are made in India. Our goal is to help them get out of poverty. So they hand make all of our textiles for us. And whenever you purchase a textile, whether it's tea towels or a beautiful apron, it comes with a hand tag that explains the impact, and it's signed by the lady who made it.
Second Harvest is delighted and thrilled that we were chosen to be a partner with Cooks Who Feed, because it has an incredible impact and allows us to do more work every day. And all this great food you see behind you is all rescued. It's all surplus. So this would otherwise go to waste. That doesn't have to happen. We can get that food to communities. Right now in Canada, we have 6.9 million Canadians that need food, and these aprons are making sure that they get the food.
I think it's really important for us who live in the first world to understand that waste is a phenomenal issue. And when we look at a piece of food, we kind of just throw it away so easily. And yet when I look at a piece of food now in the garbage, I think of where did it come from? The seed, how did it grow, the sunshine, the light, the money, the people, the manpower, the energy. It's not just something that you throw in the garbage. I think we really need to be aware of that. And this kind of initiative to me really draws focus to it.
I love that. Sophia is back and talking about the wall of snow coming from parts of the province.
Yes, more snow for the snow belts. Shannon, it's this pattern we've seen on and off this winter season. The snow belts get a hefty helping of snowfall, and there really isn't much to write home to mom about around the GTA. Here's a snapshot of Monday morning around 9 a.m. 3 squalls will set up along the Huron and the Georgian shore, some as far south. Some will hit as far south as the Erie shorelines. Goderich, London will be in the crosshairs. Barrie, Collingwood, Guelph, even the Kitchener and Orangeville area will all see a couple centimeters of snowfall between Monday and Tuesday. Winds will be whipping around at about 40 to 50 kilometers an hour, so we could have some low visibility driving conditions on some of the major routes, including the 401, the 402, and even the QEW series highways throughout Monday into Tuesday. Now, we said a little bit earlier in the show that we'd talk about the 3 to 5 centimeters that you will also see on Monday in the nation's capital region. Snowfall, for those of you in Ottawa, is actually because of A big system that we're watching out in Atlantic Canada that takes a quick back step and drops a few quick centimeters for those of you into the Ottawa Valley and into the capital region. It will be said and done in a matter of a few hours, but the cold sticks around for the first couple days of this work week. Colder, really. We're oscillating pretty close to the seasonal pattern this time of year. Plenty of sunshine. But into the latter half of this week, a big ridge builds in, and we actually have the chance to reach double-digit category yet again for this time in December. It is fairly unheard of. 15 days to Christmas, Shannon, and it certainly doesn't feel like it when you're looking at sunshine and anywhere from 5 to 8 degrees.
Double digits, incredible. Thanks, Sophia. That's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Before we go, we got to show you some familiar faces making an appearance in the National Ballet of Canada's production of The Nutcracker last night. Can you tell? That's CBC Metro Morning host David Common and radio host Nicole Martin. They were playing the very critical role of the Cannon Dolls, and I think they did amazing. We hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and we'll see you next weekend.